Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Ahead, we examine the impact of a potential shortage of grains on poultry production and cost of feed. Also coming up, government announces work on newly discovered oil reserves in the country, a move expected to help increase revenue from that sector.
We are thus working on developing the newly discovered fields with significant reserves to ensure that we generate additional revenues to support our development efforts.
And Star Oil emerges second biggest marketing firm in Ghana based on half-year industry data as it closes gap with market leader Goil. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. Thanks for staying with us. First up, government has announced that it is working on newly discovered oil reserves in the country that will help improve revenue from that sector. Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam disclosed this at the Future of Energy Conference in Accra. He announced that the government hopes to use this additional revenue to finance some critical capital projects.
Since crude oil discovered in commercial quantities in 2007, the subsequent production commencing in 2010, we have so far distributed crude oil revenues of approximately $10.6 billion as of today to the allowable designated accounts provided for in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. Even though annual crude oil receipts constitute a little over 1% of GDP in Ghana, we still have a vast potential in this sector. We are thus working on developing the newly discovered fields with significant reserves to ensure that we generate additional revenues to support our development efforts. All these fields, when developed, will increase Ghana's revenues and allow us to implement various government projects to help put in place the infrastructure required to advance our country sustainably.
Now, oil marketing firm Star has emerged as the second biggest retail firm in the industry. This is based on data covering volumes of products sold ending June this year. Here's Georgia Afi with more.
Development can be described as not that surprising based on how Star has fared over the past years. From number 2 in 2022 to now second in the industry. But another interesting development is that Star is closing the gap with market leader Goil. Data seen by Joy Business shows that while Goil had the market share pegged at 13.9% ending June, Star was doing 11.4%. However, there are some who want to argue that this is just half-year data. Well, in 2023, Star Oil ended the year with 10.3% as market share, while Goil had 16.3%. Star Oil has a strategy of some competitive pricing, or in some cases, very low prices compared to the other top oil marketing firms in the country. There are currently more than 100 oil marketing firms in Ghana, and posting these numbers can be described as interesting. Some market watchers have also argued that Star's growth can be linked to the fact that more consumers of petroleum products are now more price sensitive.
Now, the Ghana Export and Import Bank says it will continue to put in place a strict risk management framework together with efficient monitoring strategies to ensure minimal impairment levels. According to Deputy Chief Executive Officer Rosemary Archer, the bank will create avenues for businesses to generate revenue from sale of products to the general public. She spoke to Joy Business.
The Ghana Exim Bank at the Tuesday market said it is committed to increasing revenue from non-traditional exports and to complement the efforts of exporters making Ghana a strong pillar regionally and globally across all sectors.
So far from January to this August, we have showcased products from about over 800 SMEs. And this is a feat, I believe. We want to tell Ghanaians that it is possible. We can see, taste, and feel Ghana. We can produce our own, we can consume our own. And then, as a bank, we support export. We send them to the global marketplace. In the coming months, we are hoping to enroll more made in Ghana shops to showcase some of these products. Because apart from the Midtown, which is a platform for trade facilitation of Exim Bank, we do not see a lot of these made in Ghana products.
Viosu Manchen Noche Ni Noche Owo the fourth called for more attention to the small and medium enterprise sector.
Shows not just creativity but support from higher ups into what we make locally, promoting that. The kinds of young people I've seen also involved is also quite extraordinary, because it shows the Ghanaian youth, the Ghanaian young person is dedicated to creating out of nothing, and that's where I think is the next stage of where our country should be. I'm impressed, I support this, and I know that traditional leaders across the broad spectrum of Ghana are willing to support this and make sure that Ghana's name is on the international market. So go Ghana.
And you're watching The Marketplace. Turning to our top story this afternoon, concerns about the impact of any grain shortage on the already struggling poultry industry. The dry spell in the northern part of the country has had a devastating impact on farmers. Now, government is moving to ban export of some grains to ensure there's enough supply for human consumption. But how about poultry, and what are the implications for cost of feed? Let's go on to Zoom, speak with Chairperson of the Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association, Gifty Rodo. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. First, tell us about how the drought, which has affected grains and cereals, will affect poultry farmers who rely on this produce for feed.
Yes, thank you so much. Good afternoon, cherished listeners, and good afternoon to all the Joy staff, the Joy News staff. Yes, the drought in the northern sector is actually very threatening to our industry. And we, as industry players, have actually written the Minister for Food and Agriculture about 3 weeks and some few days ago, and prompting him that we are anticipating some shortages in this regard. Right now, as I speak, there is no maize. There are no maize in this country, and approximately, if we are not mistaken, the poultry industry, the census we've taken, it will be around the end of this month. So from September on, we'll be having a lot of problems. We may not be able to feed our animals, and the animal production, has a more consumption than the human consumption of maize. And what we have right now, it will be less than a month.
Wow.
We will have a big problem. And if you can recall, 5 years ago, we had the same issue. We prompted the then minister, Dr. Efri Yakoto, that we are anticipating that we'll be having a shortage. He should permit us to have import of maize. He denied and said they have enough maize in the system through the PFJ production. But then at the end of it all, the feed millers all the feed mills were shut down. If you can recall, you can call other feed millers to ascertain if what I'm saying really occurred. We had poultry farmers had a big challenge. Some birds actually had ulcers and they died. And I quite remember one of the farmer came to visit me, and he said that somebody gave my contact to him that I could help him. He's a pensioner who has invested his money into 10,000 layer farm. He sat before me, and a pensioner sobbing because he has not fed his birds. He said it was from Friday, and then I met with him on Sunday. Imagine such issue that the farmer or somebody who is trying to keep so food security, nourish this country, and small investment. Imagine how it's going to, that even the then now is going to affect us. And so we think that the ministry is even not treating this as urgent as necessary, because they may have no stake in it. But then it's very urgent situation. And the ban on the cereal or grains, it's empty words, because there are no grains to ban. And even if there were maize or cereal in this country, then the ban was not necessary. The necessity to ascertain, to curtail this problem would have been government resourcing, either banks or government or the Ministry of Food and Agriculture itself, to actually mop up or purchase all the grains in their possession. If you have the grain in your possession, then you can speak that there is no more going to be exportation of grains, because the farmer who has produced the grain needs money to be able to have their livelihood, to be able to have their necessities met, and will not heed what you're saying. He will sell it to whoever can offer the highest price. And he will never listen to what you are saying. And we all know that our borders are even porous.
Right.
And we Ghanaians are also corrupt, very corrupt. So if I have 1,000 bags of maize and somebody, offered me 10 cedis and the other one is offering me 5 cedis, I will give it to the one who is offering me the highest. And if they are going through the borders, I will make sure I use some of that money to seal the mouth of those who are watching, or the eyes. And so this is the pending issue right now that needs to be taken seriously. And this is our livelihood. We cannot sit down for, politicians to play with our destiny.
Right.
And food security, this country.
No doubt. And so, I mean, I know that the cost of feed has always been a problem for poultry farmers. And so you anticipate that this could cause prices to go up further. What would be the impact on businesses?
Yes, this is what I'm saying. The businesses will be suffering. Poultry birds, people will lose their livelihood. Already we had an issue, with the high cost of production. When we used to produce maize, we used to produce a ton of feed for 2,500, and it's now past 7,000, past even now, as the situation heading towards, it's going to go close to 10,000 per ton. So it's like they deliberately wanting to kill the local industry in order for the import of frozen chicken to prevail. And like, for instance, right now, farmers, if you were producing 10,000, the working capital is not enough to produce the same again. Perhaps even half, right? You are not able to produce half, because you can work the mathematics out of the 2,500 to 7,000 plus, and now heading towards 10,000. You can then see, the result, the end result.
Right.
And so farmers are pleading with him, the Honorable Brian Champo, to actually take our matters seriously enough, because we've written a letter over 3 weeks and plus ago that this is what we foresee. And if you issue the permit right now, he has not done it, but if he issued the permit right now,
okay,
you can never get maize in this month. And so there's a looming problem coming upon poultry farmers in this country.
Final question, what should be government's intervention? You were hinting at that for livestock farmers, particularly poultry farmers who rely on these grains for feed.
Yeah, we wrote him a letter, and we need to have some import because there is no maize in the country right now. Even the barn is empty words because there is nothing for them. They already mop it out, long ago. And so now what we need to be doing is to try to have to import, whether we can look at our neighboring countries, or because they are the one who came in for it. And usually it's a business. They come in for it at a cheaper price, and then when the price rise, we go there and then bring it back again. And so perhaps he can consider that and give also permit for the National Association to also get to import some of the grains for its members. And so that's what I will plead with them as immediate solution.
Thank you so much. We'll be checking in with you with time to see how you guys are faring amid these concerns about a food crisis. Gift Rodothe, chairperson for the Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association. I appreciate your time with us this afternoon on the marketplace. Let's move on to other news. Managing Director of Fidelity Bank Ghana, Julian Opuni, is urging other private institutions to support the quest by the bank to promote a green economy. According to him, efforts by the financial sector to create a sustainable green economy for the country can be boosted if more firms support initiatives aimed at promoting environmental sustainability. Opuni spoke to Joy Business after addressing a sustainability conference in Accra. Yes, more.
The Sustainability Conference by the Business and Financial Times, with support from Fidelity Bank, brought together corporate firms to make a commitment towards safeguarding the environment as well as using clean energy. According to Managing Director for Fidelity Bank Ghana, supporting small businesses with funding is just one way of making a commitment towards green economy, hence the need for more activities to promote environmental sustainability.
Money is normally only one of the ingredients to create the support. We are a financial institution, but we're trying to build what we call an ecosystem. The idea is we make a lot more noise, hoping that others are also touched, other institutions that can either offer technical assistance, other investment ideas, expertise, etc. will join this ecosystem where this whole thing becomes a big collaboration, public partnerships, government institutions, policymakers, and other private sector investors. We want everybody's hand on deck because it's not just about us. So the idea is the future, the dream will be to have a larger collaborative effort, which is really creating the change.
Startup firm Skin Gourmet was adjudged winners for the Fidelity Bank Green Tech Innovation Challenge as part of this year's Sustainability Conference, in a significant move to propel Ghana's agriculture sector towards a more sustainable future. The bank initiated an award of over 1 million cedis in grants and mentorship for some small enterprises. After receiving the cash prize from the bank, the group assured of using the funds to expand their operations.
These 200,000 Ghana cedis, we are going to use it for some of our technologies in the company, and also to extend the business. We want Skin Gourmet to go far, very far, to get more raw materials, to employ more employees. It's a whole lot. It's a whole lot. We're going to use it, honestly, to expand the business, yes.
This year's conference is under the theme Ensuring Environmental and Economic Sustainability, Collaborating for a Greener Future.
You're watching The Marketplace. Let's talk tech up next. And Elon Musk's satellite internet service Starlink is set to officially commence operations in Ghana by the end of August this year under the name of SpaceX Starlink GH Limited. This development follows the successful completion of all administrative and licensing procedures with Ghana Telecoms and Internet Service Regulator, the National Communications Authority. That's a statement that came from the NCA sometime last week. Joining us to discuss, lead for Eyes of Africa, Henry Kobler. Good afternoon to you. And so, yes, previously there were concerns about whether or not Starlink was licensed to operate in the country, but looks like that hurdle has been crossed and they are operational now.
Yes, Daryl. So generally that hurdle has been crossed, and we've been able to have it licensed and available for use relatively from next week, and that's a good gain for us. Generally, at least to have an alternative to be able to jump onto any other internet services. positively with it being satellite, it basically moves us away from the original providers that have always been available. Generally, I'm also looking at how it's going to affect and impact in businesses. Generally, I'm looking at it as it's a best suit solution generally for businesses. I mean, they could have the alternative to this provider and also have unlimited internet coming through for them as well. But again, I'm also looking at how the individual could also make use of this framework that is in for us. I mean, generally, if you're looking at the pricing, it wouldn't be really easy for individuals to sort of jump onto this platform. But generally, I think that companies can make do with that.
Yeah, I was wondering whether the excitement was about the fact that it was owned by Elon Musk, or I mean, what dynamics this brings to the data market here in the country. How is that going to affect competition in the data space?
Yeah, Daryl. So you had always seen that. I mean, we've had the regular telecoms being the providers for us. We've seen how other third-party providers, which are not in the telecom sector, have sort of struggled to come into the line to provide data services to people. And we've seen how they've sort of failed in how they would rather compete with the original providers of the internet. And so generally, this being an alternative, first of all, being satellite, generally comes into play. Again, it's also being able to provide unlimited services in terms of the bandwidth that you can use, which is unlimited, also gives some level of fame points to businesses. And so now you're not thinking about how expensive it is going to be if you're using more or less with the internet, because again, if you're looking at your usage, you're not thinking about how much of bandwidth you're sort of using on there. And so that comes in as an advantage for you, where you're not being capped in terms of how much of data you're sort of being used. And again, looking at the pricing, I think that it works better off. The speed, again, relatively has always been amazing for the users who have sort of done several tests around the Ghanaian region. And so that comes in with excitement. And again, the competition. I mean, if you're looking at how it's going to be competing against MTN, which is basically the major provider here, and the other telecom companies, which are also now sort of struggling in terms of the pricing monopoly that comes in with it. I think that's where the excitement really is coming from. And so businesses now have an alternative, which is the very first thing. And again, the pricing in terms of how much of data they could really use, and the speed as well, which has also been a major concern, also comes into an advantage for the users that will jump onto this.
Yeah, speak about cost. I was eavesdropping on a conversation in the control room. They never like to kill their mics in there. And so the director was talking about whether or not it's advisable for an individual to, sort of get a Starlink data.
I mean, if you can afford it, first of all, it's fine enough, but you should realize that it's stationary. And so that means that you sort of have to peg it at a particular location before you can basically make do with it. And so if you're pushing it into your housing, I mean, a lot of households are now sort of making use quite a lot on data. And so if you're using it in the house and then having it shared across, I think that works better. But if you're always on the move, I don't think that it's a best alternative for you. Still probably would jump on the traditional ones that are there.
All right. Well, speak of data, new developments in the 5G war. MTN Ghana has joined forces in the development of the shared 4G, 5G infrastructure. We are told a strategic initiative led by Next Gen Infrastructure Company. How's that, Henry?
So, again, looking at this whole setup, I think that it was coming from the backbone of the lessons that had been learned from the 4G spectrum that had been, giving out on the wholesale. And again, looking at how we've sort of had not major transformation with the 4G and how it's sort of have impacted on the usage of the internet. Again, there's several points where people still are complaining about the speed and then the quality of the service of the data that we sort of have. And so generally, we looking at a faster spectrum that would come in terms of it being 5G. I think that first of all, it's long overdue, and Ghanaians should have been on 5G way. I mean, we should be having a conversation now. We should have been using it. I mean, if you're looking at most of the phones that are out there now, most of them are enabled to head up on 5G. And so being the users, I think that we're best suited in that regard. But generally looking at all the consortium coming together, I mean, Ascend Digital, KNet, Nokia, they sort of have some level of reputation to guard. And I'm believing that I mean, regardless of how they were brought together in terms of policy and in terms of regulatory frameworks, I am looking at how they would collaborate to be able to push and have these allocation of shares to them, and again improve on what it throws out to it. For me, generally, the conversation would have just been that would MTN be able, would have been able to provide its own 5G, services, or be able to do its own setup. That would have been a perfect opportunity as well to also have a divergent point rather than jamming all of them together and say everybody should come in and have a shared contribution. I mean, MTN is still going to have a very large contribution if you're still looking at how the shares are going to be in terms of the allocation of shares, in terms of the inclusive of the money that is coming on, the infrastructure assets that would have come in, such as the towers, the fiber optics, and then microwaves channels that would have been available. And so for me, generally it's a good thing that the government is sort of looking at regulating it and bringing all of them together to have some level of understanding and providing the services to the ordinary Ghanaian to understand, use, and basically make do with it. Again, I think that it's a good one, but I'm looking at, can there always be alternatives? Can you give the opportunities to these growing companies to sort of innovate and bring in alternatives so that when we're going down, we're all not going down on the same drain, but there could always be alternatives. That would have been my pointer to this. But again, I mean, the regulator relatively understands what they're doing, and I'm believing that they would provide the best for the ordinary Ghanaian.
Thank you so much for your insights and perspective, as always. Henry Kobler, the lead for Eyes of Africa. Appreciate your time. And that's it for our program here on the Marketplace. Head into radio for the masterclass. Join us if you can for a conversation on fish farming. That's at 1:30. Join 99.7 FM. But these are our stories trending on our website. Scrapping e-levy, COVID tax will cause government to lose 7.7 billion Ghana cedis in 2025. That's it. Be sure to join us. I'm told to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it. Masterclass on fish farming with Evans Kojo-Dan. So we CEO of Flow Cell Farms. That's at 1:30 in a minute on Joy 99.7 FM. Thanks for watching.